Your knee's gonna be here.
Make it big. Make the screen big.
I'm just done with that video first. I'm
Maybe
going to
mute
Oh, no.
No, right. Yes. And maybe it doesn't like the camera in the eye. I like smelling in here. It's very heavy, I try. Now I don't try to like her slammed in there. That's how I was. one more task from our weekend. Yeah. So this one is what this.
No.
What is that? I don't have. The police order was there. The covers in the house, all.
Well, we enjoyed seeing but it was she's there in that part.
And then,
We're doing it again. So that could be a good time slot. Yeah. We'll do it. She's like,
that's great. Because when you have your better. Yeah,
okay, why don't we get started? Start with the pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I wish to announce that the 48-hour notice is required under the Open Public Meetings Act was published in the Asbury Park Press, the CoStar, and the New Coaster on December the 16th of 2021. That a copy has been placed on the bulletin board in the borough office and that a copy has been filed with the borough clerk. Mr. Vanel, absent. Mr. Gubatose,
Here.
Mr. Sexsmith,
Here.
Mr. Weber,
Here.
Mayor Fox.
Here. Good evening, everybody. Here we are at week 16 of the meeting 16, not week 16, well beyond that. We have a number of topics to address tonight. I apologize for the sequence of the meeting, but we felt that the executive session was critical and needed to have that before this meeting kicked off the rest of the agenda. We had one workshop topic scheduled that some of us felt important, which was understanding the continuation of relaxed enforcement of borough codes for bar and restaurant tents going forward. But that topic was usurped. So we do have a presentation on potential open space grant applications, and CME is going to cover that for us. Additionally, we have two important bond ordinance adoptions relating to the outfall pipe and the second thing is the Park Place road work we're going to do in sewer work. So with that, we have an executive session scheduled for about 30 minutes. There's a personnel matter, resolution 2022-18. Make a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Mr. Bennell, absent. Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes.
That's amazing. So I am not people in the market.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Oh, no, I would. Not cherry. That's my cheese, but yeah, now I consider local cherry. I think you're. Do you do land? Yeah. Trevor's. Right.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, I've quite had it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other one that's there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So they feel like freedom. Oh, they would.
If I could get you a few minutes after the meeting, just do kind of straight up the details recording and have full parts.
For the.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
what's up?
We have the three.
Yeah. And then will that be discussed? At all? Okay. So there's really hasn't really been much, getting you down. I'll probably hold off on until at least the news of all the engineers.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
Okay.
And then we'll.
Mhm. Oh, thank you. Okay. Yeah, I'll probably just get you at the end anyway. Thanks, Kim.
Okay.
This is really case. Oh, yeah.
Well. Okay. Thank you all for your indulgence there. We'll go to Agenda item number 6, there's 2 workshop items, one is 2020 board recommendation. Second is the new state multi-family dwelling insurance information question requirements. Let's see, Paul joining us.
Paul is on the, Zoom.
Okay. All right, first item. I didn't put it on the agenda.
Okay. I did ask a number of months ago to put this on the agenda. I believe it's the 2021 plan recommendations. I don't have the recommendations. Councilman Sexsmith did ask me if I had them. I said I would look at them and find them. I thought over the following week or so, matter of public record, we would have welcomed them. The reason I asked to put this on the agenda is because at the end of 2021, the planning board made recommendations specifically given to them by the strategic task force under Paula Gavin. And Paula Gavin had worked with Christine Bell, the planner, who put together a fairly comprehensive list of recommendations presented to the planning board. The planning board chose to accept those recommendations. They in turn would make those recommendations to the council. What transpired was I believe there were 10 recommendations, and of those 10, the planning board agreed with 9, and they were largely intended to manage density, just basically better align our zoning ordinances with our master plan. One recommendation that the strategic task force made that the planning board had kind of mixed results on, and ultimately the majority of the planning board decided they did not agree with the recommendation, was specifically to make hotels a non-permitted use on Main Street. For what it's worth, as a member of the planning board at that time, I thought I liked all 10 recommendations. I thought they were all valid, including considering making hotels a non-permitted use. The discussion at that time, the pros and the cons, just for the benefit of this audience, was really focused on what I would describe as the exception to the rule. There were members of the planning board who said, if we make hotels non-permitted uses, that would also rule out boutique hotels, small, quaint, charming hotels that might actually be an added value to Main Street, that might attract foot traffic and so forth. And that was largely, if I recall, it was fairly split, but it was a majority said, yes, let's not include hotels as not permitted use.
No, it was actually unanimous.
It wasn't.
Unanimous. No, we didn't vote for it.
No, I did not.
I checked with the planning secretary last night and she validated that.
Okay, let's go to the video. I not only didn't vote for it, I specifically spoke against it.
I'm just telling you what the court told me and it's in my notes.
So regardless, the point of this workshop, I had hoped, would be that we could have discussed all 10 recommendations, including the one that the planning board did not approve. And of course, Mr. Mayor, you have that detail, but you didn't have the materials. I guess the plan was to have me bring the materials to the meeting. But they were not shared with the council, they were not shared with the public. But regardless, I think it's important, the planning board members agreed with 9 out of the 10 recommendations. I was just trying to add color, specifically because I remember the one that I disagreed with. But I wanted all 10 of those recommendations to be discussed tonight at our council meeting. And again, Councilman Sexsmith reached out to me. I was traveling, I was in Washington, D.C. Said I would look for the materials when I got back. I was nonetheless surprised that none of us were provided the materials. So I imagine now I will just have to ask that we speak to all 10 of those items at a subsequent council meeting. None of us have the materials for tonight.
Did we contact the planning board head who was responsible for that?
No.
Why wouldn't we have asked the planning board to come into do a workshop like this and have that conversation.
I think we should have done that. Are you saying the individual council member who asks for the topic should have done this?
I wasn't sure what the topic entailed.
Until reviewing the recommendations made by the 2021 planning board at the end of the year, and I assumed the folks who manage the day-to-day operations, it was led by the mayor, would have coordinated the data gathering. I assumed it correctly, but the point still is, the planning board went, first of all, the strategic task force, followed by the planning board, went through a great deal of effort to put together recommendations for the council. Here we sit in September of the following year, and we have not yet addressed the planning board's recommendations. I simply asked if we were putting together a list of agenda items, can we include those recommendations so we as a council can discuss which ones, if any, we wanted to pursue. And now I find that the folks who prepare our agenda packages, folks who post these agendas.
I think it was just a miscommunication.
Yeah, but I'm
So,
beginning to feel it's a little bit of a setup.
no, I don't. I think that, we need to move on. If you want to put it back on the agenda for a workshop item in the future,
I
we'll
would
just
like to
ask the
do that.
planning board.
And who would prepare those materials?
The planning board. These are their recommendations, are they not?
It
So
is.
that would be the planning board.
So, Mr. Mayor, so,
So
I
the next time you, I'm sorry, let me just finish. So the next time you want it on the agenda, if you would just specify that the recommendations are not in your possession, that we need to get them. And then that way, the appropriate people will then reach out to the planning board to get them. The recommendations.
Despite the fact that I made that statement in public tonight, I'll put that statement in writing. When
I think that's you were, you assumed that they were gonna reach out.
I assume it's a document, it's a matter of public record. I assume our mayor and our administration
Let's just
could
move on then.
access that document.
Well, please, you were also a member of the 2021 planning board. So what is- Rich is wanting to clarify that. Yes.
So if I can, I think the strategic task force did a good job and they made these 10 recommendations. And there doesn't seem to be any dispute about 9 of them, since 9 of them were also the planning board agreed to. I think the issue is this one, and that involves allowing hotels, having our zoning allow hotels or not on Main Street right now. They would be allowed. If somebody wants to buy a big enough piece of property, they could build a 50-unit hotel on Main Street if they want to. And I know with experience.
So I'm a little
Can I
confused.
finish, Mr. Mayor? There's nothing to be confused about. Let me when I finish, so, somebody wants to buy a piece of property big enough, build a 50-room hotel, they could. I've experienced it in another town where this happened, and if you build a big enough hotel, and now I can't remember if it's 50 rooms or 100 rooms, but you automatically get an additional liquor license. So that's a concern for me. So I don't know why we can't talk about this. If 9 of these are agreed to, this is the one that is not everybody's in agreement on. I think this is the perfect time in a workshop. I don't think we have to wait until another workshop. Like, I would love to hear from the public. What does the public think about allowing hotels on Main Street? And again, just to reemphasize, doesn't mean there could never be one, a small one, a boutique one. They just have to go to the zoning board and get a variance. So I think this is the venue to talk about if we want to have hotels on Main Street or not. That's why we've been on the workshop session.
I think this discussion is premature at best. Because they provided us with 9 or 10, whatever the number was, of technical recommendations to changing the zoning laws. One of which was hotels, one of them had to do with density, and there were some other things that I don't recall. But, you know, we're gonna sit up here and expect the public to have a conversation about these technical changes to the zoning laws. I think we would be much better served to lean over the counter and say, Ms. Humphrey, could you direct the borough engineer to start drafting revisions to the zoning law based on the recommendations of the planning board?
Yes.
And then when we have those revisions in hand, we can see what the actual technical changes are, what the impacts are. Then we can talk about it.
And if I can just, and I don't agree with the way you carry. I thought that's him because, like I said, the 9 were already agreed to. There was a public forum, there was a meeting. People were concerned they could have gone to that planning board meeting and voice them. I don't feel like we need to hear from the public on all 10 of these. I'd like to hear from the public on the one. Well, there was an agreement. That one.
Okay, so I guess what I'm struggling with here is that the planning board unanimously from the vote I have here voted on 9 recommendations. And that's what they made the recommendation on. What I'm now hearing is, well, we don't want to talk about the 9, we want to talk about the 1 that wasn't part of the approved recommendation. So I'm confused as to, are we now retrospectively now challenging the planning board and saying, well, we like the 9, but we also like the 10, and who's making that challenge?
Yeah, well, I think it's just to respect the work of the strategic task force, if they made that recommendation. Because as everybody knows, the ultimate decision isn't with the planning board, it's with the council.
Well, the ultimate decision isn't with the strategic planning group, the ultimate decision, its recommendation was with the planning board. The ultimate recommendation was with the planning board, they made that recommendation. What I'm confused about right now is, are we going to discuss the planning board recommendation or something else?
Well, I don't think you should be confused, because planning
Well,
board,
I am confused.
I know, the planning board doesn't change our zoning laws, the council does. So I'm not suggesting the council talks about it. If you all want to bring it back in another workshop another day, that's fine. I was trying to avoid that. Let's hear from the public. Let's hear what they feel about hotels on Main Street, and then that'll be the purpose of the workshop.
Strategic planners who were at the planning board meeting, they were there. And they didn't object to what. it
Bill,
said.
Mr. Shuck is with the planning board chair. So if you want to get up and address the group.
Yes, William Shook, 110 Fifth Avenue, Bradley Beach. There were members from the strategic planning that were there in attendance at our meeting. And we went over one by one. And we chose at the time that hotels would be allowed on Main Street. We have ordinances that are in place currently right now that would prevent anyone from overbuilding a hotel. We have side yard, rear yard, front yard setbacks. We have lot coverage. We have impervious coverage in there. We have parking spaces that you must provide. With a hotel, you're going to have employees. Guess what? Those employees have to be provided a parking space. It cannot be, well, you know what? I'm only half full, so I'm going to have my employees use those parking spaces. No, they have to be counted in as one group. All right. I go to hotels during the wintertime with my gymnastics. Usually I stay twice a week, twice a month for a weekend at a hotel. The first thing I am asked, proof of ID, my driver's license. Okay, they are regulated on the yearly, they're inspected and regulated by the state, the hotels. So, I mean, if somebody wants to put a little boutique on Main Street and promote more foot traffic to our businesses who are hurting during the winter time, well, you know what? Shame on this council for trying to stop it. I mean, they are regulated. It's not going to be like a, I don't want to use the word, but, a dump. It's not going to be a dump. Nobody's going to invest money to build a dump. Where this council should be actually working on is this Airbnb regulation.
Next meeting.
No, it should have been way before next meeting. Mayor Fox has been asking for it, and you guys would rather deal with the chapter 5, trying to figure out who's ruling who. You need to deal with Airbnb. Okay? I mean, hotels and motels are regulated.
Are you aware we had in there Airbnb mechanism to track Airbnb? And you know who got that mechanism in place, Mr. Shuck? Myself and Council President Sexton. And then the borough could not provide the information that they needed to monitor Airbnbs. This was in January through like March.
And I was pushing it from 2017.
So good for you.
Okay,
We're off topic.
but anyway, the state, go back with the hotels and motels. The planning board decided I mean, you know, we all, it was unanimous and you were there. And even in 2019, you voted when we did the economic strategic plan, you voted for the approval of the hotels being left in the books. In 2019, you even voted yes.
Obviously, you've done homework on this.
Oh, well, put it this way,
I don't.
it's
recall
memory.
any-
I remember.
Yeah, well, I don't,
I do.
but the point here is what we think today, and all I did,
So,
you're trying to make a political issue of this.
no,
I
I'm not making
simply-
no political. Did I mention
simply said-
politics? I'm talking about hotel.
And what I simply said was, I wanted to discuss all of the planning board's recommendations. That came from the strategic task force. That's all I was gonna do. I thought I framed the pros and the cons of hotels very fairly. I talked about foot traffic. I talked about the quaintness. I just wanted to have a discussion, Mr. Schuster.
So you
Let's not
don't,
make this a political issue.
it's not political. So you don't like the fact that the planning board decided that, you know what, we're gonna keep hotels because it's gonna be good for our businesses.
The planning board made a recommendation. I'd like that.
Yeah,
They can
yeah.
do that.
Well, that's why it was sent, and we made a recommendation. And now you're challenging their recommendation just for the one.
So these 9 recommendations, has the council acted on them?
No.
No, we haven't, so we need to. So
And whose
let's
fault
get
is
them
that?
here and let's have a discussion about the 9 and maybe we'll have about the 10, but
And like
I'm saying we
Mr.
should do it now.
Like Councilman Sexsmith had mentioned,
Right, so you
have the
Building-
engineers
building
write it
action
all up.
by the people up here.
Right,
So
so
let's
have the
get it.
engineer write it up. This way here, you get to see what the outcome is gonna be of everything, and then bring it back. Yeah, because you're only discussing one thing. Well, maybe there's a different impact on different areas. That you may turn around and say, well, you know what? That's right. We may not want one of these 9s. Yeah, like Mr. Councilman Sexsmith said.
Right now, the recommendations are sitting out there in the abstract. Once we get them into a draft ordinance.
Exactly.
read What they are.
You could read what they all are, actually what they are. There's no, this, you shouldn't have a discussion now.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 Third Avenue. I was on the strategic planning committee. And it was, a lot of the members were very surprised to even understand that you could build a hotel or motel in the borough of Bradley Beach. They were shocked, and that's why the recommendation was made. We're one of the few towns that has a very liberal ordinance on bed and breakfast. It's a conditional use. We just had the James Hotel get renovated, the old Sandcastle. They did a beautiful job. That's fantastic. They were a pre-existing use and they could do that. But other people can open bed and breakfasts if they choose to. Councilman Weber brought up a great point. If you build a 100-room hotel, you automatically get a liquor license. There's no benefit to us to have a hotel here. There's plenty of business on the street. Also, what I'm more concerned about is a transit village in this town. Because if it becomes a transit village, the parking requirements for hotels and motels will be reduced, just like they will be for apartment buildings. Try to park in Belmar now under the transit village. Try to park in Long Branch. Try to park in Asbury Park where there are transit villages. This is a nice beachfront community with options for people to stay. We do not need a hotel. And to Councilman Gubitosi's point, if someone wants to have a boutique hotel, they can surely come and make the positive proofs to the same land use board. Also, Councilman Weber is correct that this council and these residents are the ones who decide on the ordinance, not necessarily the land use board. And this room was filled when that came up the first time with people who didn't want the hotels and motels. So it is the public, not the land use board, which makes the ultimate determination. But, and also this is just another administrative failure that these documents were not posted on the website for everyone in this room to look at and for the council to look at ahead of time. It's really sad. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, why don't we move to the second item, which is the new state multifamily dwelling insurance information collection requirements. Kim, could you,
Actually, Christine's gonna
Christine,
do it and Paul, and I'll jump in as well. in the
Do you want Paul to
discussion.
go first?
Yeah, Paul, do you want to go first? Or do you want the attorney to explain the legislation that has passed?
It's on mute. Paul, you're on mute.
There he goes. Paul, did you want to bring up legislation that passed?
Can you hear me?
Good numbers so far, I guess it's not surprising. Fan was one of them. He's 9 for 21.
Hear your radio.
A lot of home runs he's giving up here. And a pitch caught on it. I saw it labor, and he's a very nice, gentle young man.
Can
you hear me?
Sorry.
Yes, Paul.
Can you hear me?
That's much better.
There you go.
Okay, somebody take it away.
I think he's freezing.
Okay, okay.
Can you hear me?
so-
Yeah, we can hear you.
I couldn't hear you. If you can rephrase what the exact question was.
If you want to go over the new legislation that was just passed, with the November 2nd deadline for us to implement,
Yep. So the state has come out with basically something else that we're going to be required to obtain and track from rental properties in town and businesses. For numerous reasons, there was already a law that existed at state level that said any business running landlord had to have liability insurance on them. It comes into play obviously for a business, and it comes into play for any rental property, because a rental property really is a business, unless it is a owner occupied single family dwelling. Any space that you're renting out is looked at as a business. Therefore, insurance is required. Sounds like the lapse came about because you would have to take that insurance and have it on file, and there's really no process for record keeping on it per se. So the state just changed up the way that that's going to be tracked and followed. And of course, that means they kick it down to the municipal side. So the municipalities, from the way that this reads, are now going to be required to obtain and file copies of the insurance certificates from rental properties and from businesses. Additional to the obtaining and filing of it, there is verbiage in the state law that says we can apply basically a processing fee for that. And then the biggest thing I think that's open is the enforcement level on it, or how compliance is gathered if people don't send it in. There's verbiage in there. Again, it can go through a summary collection as other penalties and liens and fines do. But it's something that certainly needs to be discussed and written how we're going to carry it out.
thanks, Paul. So, I don't know if you will do different areas that we have to address.
So based on the code as it's written now, you have to decide first, first of all, what a reasonable administrative fee is for this type of filing. Because the landlords and the businesses are all going to need to file this. When they're going to need to file, basically, they have to do it once every year, I believe. And then also, who's gonna handle this and administer, and basically record keep this, and where at that point where it'll fit in your code. There are a few areas in your code now where you can consider putting it in. One would be chapter 303, which is the mercantile licensing. Chapter 160, which is construction codes, uniform, and certificate of occupancy, which would be for the landlords of the rental properties. And then also along the same lines would be 350, which is property maintenance and housing standards. So it would be, first of all, whether you're going to split it up between businesses and residential landlords and have them in different sections of the code, or if you want to keep them together and just basically create a new chapter for this purpose. And then who would administer and be in charge of those certificates.
We also
Yep.
have. Go ahead, Paul.
Good.
We do have capability to add a section in our current software to keep track of these, forms when they come in. And it's something that, discussing it with Paul, we can do it probably, 3 times a year, that we check, see where we're at, and then issue notices of violation if we don't have documentation.
The software component that you're talking about, I assume there's a cost associated with that.
Yeah, so Paul, were you able to figure out what that cost would be with our new software?
Not an exact cost because there's multiple ways we could do this. If I had to do this tomorrow, we could do it tomorrow, because if I got somebody's copy of insurance tomorrow, I could simply scan it or get it in an email, PDF form from them, or in any form from them electronically, or in a paper form, and scan it. And I can then, in a matter of 15 seconds, attach it as an attachment to their electronic inspection file in GovPilot. That's the outright easiest way to do it. But that is attaching it to their property file. I think the better way to do it is, once we get the landlord registration, Airbnb, short-term rental stuff worked out, I'm going to be able to capture all of the data that we have to this point this year and end of last year, and kind of populate a really tightened down list of rental properties and landlords through that landlord registration, and then attach it, save it in their landlord registration file, because that's per se the business file, as to what the meat and potatoes of this are. Then moving forward on an annual basis, when the landlord registration is due, which is a form and a fee that would be sent out and then sent back, this insurance certificate just becomes part of that. The landlord registration form isn't received and processed unless there's a certificate of insurance with it. And then all that can, through multiple ways, go in the inspection system. A date can be assigned, an expiration date. And then when the date pops up, the thing would expire. Most likely this would be on an annual basis. But then the system is good enough to the point where when the inspection date comes and lapses, it can send out notices automatically via email. It can do multiple things. A lot of automation is in the system, which makes it easier on us with limited resources and manpower. The more efficient the system is, the better off we can be. And that's what we got this system to do that. So it can be tracked.
Hold on, Paul, wait, hold on. Your speaker wasn't working correctly, sorry.
We could create a whole separate module in GovPilot, just to track these certificates individually. But I think that's a little bit messy and disjointed, because then it's not physically or directly attached to either their property file or their landlord registration. It would just be its own module floating out there, kind of like a dog license or a beach badge. I think this is better off attached to the business or the rental property that it's specifically about. This way, when we go looking for it, it's going to be in that spot. And then same thing on the mercantile process. When we send out a mercantile renewal, this becomes something that has to be submitted with that mercantile renewal. And if it's not, they don't get their mercantile license approved. And then on both of those, whether it be a landlord registration or a mercantile, if we don't get back what we need, we don't send it out. And then every couple months we do a follow up and send out either a letter or in the end a violation to get payment and to get what we need back from them.
Mute real quick. Address it in our codes, and we have to have a procedure and policy.
By November 7th.
Second.
So this applies to all rental properties? So if you have a single family house, the garage apartment, if you've got a duplex and you're living in one half and renting the other half,
So,
everything except owner occupied where you're renting out a room.
so it applies, it depends on the amount of insurance based on what type of property it is. So for businesses and rental properties with 4 or more units that are not owner occupied, the law requires $500,000 of liability coverage. For multi-family dwellings of 4 and fewer units that is owner occupied, the requirement is only $300,000.
This is like an unfunded mandate in the state, so I feel like they pass this law and then it's up to us to figure out how we're gonna.
So it's a new requirement for businesses and, across the board to have this on file with municipalities. However, when there's some sort of eviction lawsuit or a landlord initiates some sort of summary dispossess proceeding, they have to file a certificate of registration with the clerk of municipal clerk. So there are some reasons why these landlords would file these types of documents, but it hasn't been a requirement passed down from the state for everyone at this point. Yeah.
Do we think we can get this done in 6 weeks?
We can definitely, we have a procedure that we did come up with, as you heard Paul say. Now it's up to you to have the code change and write them into the code. So that's for the month of October. Well,
And this is done by ordinance. So
yeah, so it's the ordinance that you're gonna
Next week.
correct.
Question. Either for you or for Paul. How does this law align or butt heads with existing short-term rental laws? I know Asbury's got ordinances in place. I know Jersey City, where they register Airbnbs, they register short-term rentals only. And with those registrations come a collection of like hotel fees. And, it's just a different model. Do you have any sense for how these two will integrate?
Well, I think we would just put it on the short-term rental application. If that's what you're asking.
And in terms of conflicting and making them the requirements for those types of short-term rentals more onerous than the regular long-term landlords, then you have the ability to impose a reasonable administration fee. So you could adjust it based on the type of property and the purpose that it's used for. Once we look into if there is a conflict, then you can require different amounts and different fees.
Talk about this. Yeah. I think, does anybody else in the council have any questions?
No, but I just have a point of order. When we have the record reflect that. Councilman Bonell got here about
Thank
7:20.
Please let the record reflect Councilman Vanel arrived at the council meeting at 7:20.
Yes.
Thomas J. Colan, 612 Third Avenue. I was wondering, does the town have to be listed on the certificate as additionally insured?
Not under the law.
Not under the law, okay. And the landlord registration form is an annual process here in Bradley Beach?
Not currently, but it will be.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Now, for commercial mortgages, since insurance is a big issue, obviously this is an issue here. Commercial mortgage companies have third parties that just handle the whole thing. I mean, it may be worth it to look at a third party who will just annually, I have a few commercial mortgages, they just send me an email, it doesn't come from the bank. We're looking for your proof of insurance. I download it, I send it over to them, and I'm done. So they send out the notice, they review and maintain the documents. It may save the office a little bit of time, but these third parties do exist just for this purpose, and you'd only have to input the businesses and the landlords. So just a thought. Thank you.
Dr. Tom McGuire, 610 Brittany Avenue. So I have business in town, and so I have to just supply my insurance as well as the landlord has to supply their insurance as well. But we're getting charged a fee to show you that I have insurance.
It's a registration fee, so in order to register the certificate of registration and your proof of
So I
liability insurance.
pay a registration that I have proof of insurance. Is there any way that we can just include this into our mercantile? Because I have to pay for mercantile every year. It has a form, that says submit this. Can I just submit that with it and include that in there? Because it's literally just making a photocopy of my insurance. I know you guys have to track it, but you track mercantile, so why can't we track it that way? I just don't want to be. It's like getting pulled over in a car and then asking me to show proof of insurance and I have to pay a fee to show proof of my insurance. Seems like it's overdoing it. Is there any way that we don't have to pay for that?
Are you the landlord?
No,
So,
but I'm the business owner
but
there.
that's a question that needs to get addressed then, if we put it on a mercantile license, people that are applying for mercantile licenses as tenants.
Because it does include
there.
the tenants, correct? Not just the landlord, right?
No, it's the owner of the business or the property.
It's not the tenant. I thought you said it was the tenant, but he said it was the tenants too, the business owners.
The
Didn't-
business owners of the property. I'm sorry, the business,
Yeah, can you
the
ask him?
businesses
Paul?
and the owners of the rental unit. So
Right.
the businesses, individual, you would be then the tenant, I guess, in the property that you're operating out of. So you would be required then as a business owner.
Wait, you just went in a big circle.
I'm sorry.
Can we clarify with Paul? Is he doing this
It's
too?
not tenants in a matter of residential tenants,
No, I
but
know
if you're a business tenant, then yes, you have to register your business and liability insurance.
So I register every year, so we can just include that without administering a fee, correct? To the
Well,
business.
that would be up to the council's pleasure, yes.
So Mayor, can we not include that into that as far as the fee to hit our wonderful Main Street? You know, because we're already paying a fee for a mercantile, just one little checklist extra on there. Is there any way that we cannot get hit with something else?
We could certainly look at that, but we need to look at the whole kind of picture and say, is there a cost? The software costs, the cost we have to offset.
Do we need a software? We track mercantile, same way, why can't we just, I've seen what we're doing double work and paying for something we don't need. Do you need to have a software to track insurance when we're already tracking mercantile?
I think
Seems the same, like we're doing,
We are looking into it further, so I.
'Cause I know he
see
said
that
some
being
system.
large fee? Yeah, so there is a system that we actually track mercantiles as well.
and we can't just use that system. We
We're
just don't know.
seeing, we're trying to see, this was very quick, this
I
was
know,
not like, this
yeah.
wasn't like. We
Yeah.
had a year, like we just got this handed to us. and
Yeah.
Trying to get it implemented right away.
Okay.
So we're looking to see if we can get our software company to allow us to attach that documentation.
Okay.
Without creating a separate module.
Oh, and they charge more for that mod. Okay, thank you. And I really
I
just,
can't see that it would be much though.
for the software to add, even if it's a module.
Right.
Okay. Just because I'd rather not pay a fee to just show insurance. That just seems ridiculous because I already have to show proof of things and that's just nuts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. But there's no one else, so we'll move to the next agenda item. Presentation bids, CME. I'm gonna ask you to introduce yourself, and Matt's not here, so we're gonna have a representative from CME providing us some presentation on this.
Hello, my name is Drew Pavlik. I'm an engineer with CME Associates, Borough Engineers Office.
Drew, are you gonna put this on the screen or?
Yeah, can
Or I'm not sure exactly what you have planned.
quick, it's only like a 4-slide,
Oh, okay.
don't need it. Put it up there.
Shift that a little bit so people can see it. Good. No.
I don't know.
Of course not. Well, John, maybe we just. Otherwise, there's a alternative to see.
I can expand it on the actual computer, if you guys can see that. Can I do that?
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you're sharing from here now?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a separate-
Section.
So the borough is looking to, looking at this funding source for, park. The grant program is through the county's Monmouth County Municipal Open Space Grant. This is for, I believe it's actually 2022. The project we're looking at is Recreation Center Park. So the grant program is a matching program. The county will match municipal funds up to $250,000. So on a $500,000 project, they'll contribute up to $250,000. One of the requirements of the application is a public hearing. That's what we're doing today here. And this is really just to grant authorization to apply for the program, not so much the program, exactly what color the bench is, not to any kind of like detail. Here's a few pictures of the existing conditions of the park. There are some drainage problems, courts are falling apart. And there's some issues with the pavers. So the project would generally be to reconstruct the pedestrian path right here and avoid the issues with the bricks lifting. Install benches, picnic tables, trash cans, other little amenities, resurface the basketball and tennis courts, and address the drainage at the playground. We estimate this work to be right about the maximum $500,000. We ask for 500,000. We ask for the match, the full max match from the county, 250,000. We need a general concept plan. And mentioned the tables, resurface basketball and tennis, reconstruct the path, and fix, see what we can do to address the drainage problems with it. That's all I got.
Thank you. Also, Courtney is here from the recreation. She's the recreation coordinator. The mayor and I attended the last meeting with the rec committee, and there is a need to repair the courts, address the drainage. I went out there on some rainy days, and we do see where the issue is, and it should be addressed. It's exactly where the children would be playing on the play set, going down the slide, and it's coming over from the ball field, so it's not even clean water, it's pretty muddy water. We really have an active community that uses the courts right now. And there have been a few falls on the pavers and on the courts itself. Did you want to speak at all, Courtney?
I don't. Okay.
You can speak.
Hi, I'm Courtney. I'm the recreation coordinator. As Kim said, we have had some issues with the drainage, particularly in the park. There are a few spots on the basketball court and the tennis court where it floods pretty bad. They use a squeegee. They have to like go out there and clean before they can use. We did have a few accidents over the summer where people had fallen and gotten hurt. Some of the kids from camp as well, because of the pavers and things like that. So there is definitely a need for it. And we've had a ton of traffic at the community center recently. Between camp and we just recently had back to school thing though, so like it's in use. We're definitely using it. We're making good use of it. So any improvements would be appreciated.
Yeah, the court's really worn down to the nose.
Yeah, in some places, yeah. Yeah.
What's the plan for the trees? The trees along the walkway are I know they're lifting the pavers, is there a plan to replace those trees or?
Yeah, that could be, definitely be something that, that we could include.
I think there were definitely 2 trees that needed to be addressed.
Can we have the tree expert with them and make that determination?
Yeah, if we do go forward with the plan.
Any other questions?
Oh,
Yeah, put some public questions. Okay. Good. All right, thanks,
Thank you.
thanks for that. Yes.
In regards to,
name.
Julie Newtitus, 605 North Avenue. I'm just curious, where did you come up with the $500,000? I understand that we can get a grant, the matching grant, if you put in 250, the government will give you 250. It almost seems like we're building the budget so that we can get the 500,000. I can't imagine that we need improvements based on $500,000 there.
I can go over the engineering estimate.
I think the public would love that
Sure,
because,
so you have drainage issues that we have to have.
but I
addressed.
think
have
we
to-
would like to see itemized.
Well, we can do that with, this is only to apply for the grant, this isn't accepting the grant for any amount of money. This is only so we can
Oh,
actually
okay.
apply,
Yeah, because I'm kind of thinking that's kind of high.
it's not,
Well, I'd like to see.
yeah, I get, no,
Yeah.
I understand.
And
but
I think
it's
everybody
not,
would like
yeah,
to see it.
usually if you just
It's just, it
resurface
shouldn't
it,
because we can get the money. I just don't want to see like money going out. I think we
Yeah,
have
so
to be
usually if
responsible
you
there.
resurface the port, they usually run about 350.
Well, I think we would all like to see itemized bills and,
No, I'm not debating that, I'm
Yeah.
just letting you know what the cost of
just curious.
recent,
Thank you.
There's no guarantee that county will
even agree with that.
agree on full amount, grant the full amount.
Exactly.
Might be.
And that's why, to see what, true itemized for services, labor, materials, everything. I think that we would all like to see that. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll move to the approval of minutes under agenda number 8. Make a motion to approve the August 23rd, 2022 council business meeting. That's second.
Second.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Cody?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton?
Yes.
Mr. Weber? Mayor Fox?
Yes. Approval of minutes for the August 23rd, 2022 executive session. Make a motion to approve. Sorry, second.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
And
Mayor Fox?
yes. Okay, public comments, 5-minute limit, single instance to speak on the 9/13/22 agenda item. Anyone? No? Yes.
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 Third Avenue. I have a question about the bills list. Page 3. There's an item at the bottom of page 3, and it's a donation to the first aid squad. And is that one of a number of donations that takes place through the year, or is that the only donation?
I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
So these
That's their one donation for the,
So that's it. That's all the money that this mayor and council gives to the first aid for a whole year.
yeah, it's actually an increase this year from what they've gotten in prior years.
Really? So they run that on $35,000?
No, that's only for certain equipment and supplies. They're also, they fundraise for money as well.
Okay, it just doesn't seem like, we're giving the library over $500,000 and these life.
That's set by.
Oh, I
Yeah, we don't.
I'm not arguing that. We gotta look at that in Trenton, but thank you very much.
All right, let's move to ordinances. We have 2 ordinances for adoption tonight. The first is bond ordinance 2022-10. That's providing for improvements to Park Place Avenue Phase 1, appropriating $556,000 there for and authorizing the issuance of $363,000 in bonds and notes to finance a portion of the cost thereof authorized and by. Revised charge. We'll start with any council comments on the adoption of this. Okay, then I'll make a motion to open the 2022-10 adoption hearing for public comments.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, I will now close the, make a motion to close the, public hearing and move to vote on 2022-10. Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, bond ordinance, 2022-11, bond ordinance providing for stormwater outfall improvements, appropriating $2,500,000 and authorizing the issuance of $2,500,000 bonds and this finance portion of the cost thereof, authorizing in the borough of Bradley Beach, County and Monmouth. We'll open council comments just before we get that started. I just want to make sure everybody's aware that this is a shared cost with Avon. Continue to work closely with them, pretty much a 50-50 split on how we're going to do this. We can handle most of the administration, but we're going to try to shift some of that. So I'll open up the council comments.
Question. Well, two questions. One, where you just read language that said a portion of that wording.
Yes, that's correct.
So I guess my question, why are we striking that? Because at our last introduction meeting, we discussed that the 3.5 million was an estimate of the total cost that we should have half of that with that amount.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering why are we striking the wording a portion of?
It was reread by bond counsel and both towns bond counsel felt as though this needed to be redlined. It will be addressed in the agreement that the two towns have together with the new police force.
So although we are approving this, we don't expect to borrow this ourselves for the full 3.5 million.
So we will borrow, not a portion of it, but we will borrow it. And yeah, and then we will have an agreement where we levy it to to pay us. You know, their-
And just so we understand, why is it structured that way? Why are we not each?
Well, that went through bond council. It's a better structure, because you can then award the contract. One single award. It's truly a 50-50 split. So, it would have been one town was gonna have to take ownership of it. And we'll do the administration of the bond, collect the payments from Avon, will be able to award the contract. Now, this is, and remember, everyone, this is just an estimate. It might not be this amount. But we will collect the money and make the difference.
And if anything, this should be a highest, we should be lower.
I certainly should hope so. Any change would come before council.
One other question that I asked, well, I got conflicting answers, and that is where do we envision the capital costs being assigned? Is it beach utility or
Beach utility.
Beach utility?
Yeah, the mechanism is much simpler if we use the beach utility because of the down payment requirements. Because now what you're doing with down payment requirements, and then you're going out to bonds, multiple towns, being that we can use the beach utility, that's what bond council has suggested was the best option.
Great, thank you.
No other council comments to take motion to open the 2022. This is 11, sorry. Adoption hearing for public comments.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yeah.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yeah.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Public comments. There's no public comments, so I'll make a motion to close the adoption hearing and move to approve resolution 2022-11. To a vote.
Second.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexton?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox.
Yes. Okay, communications, we had one salary amendment to the 23-24 season lifeguard, lifeguards. Moving to 12, we have on resolutions, we have a limited number tonight. On the consent agenda, we have 3 items, 2022-219, the bill list for September 13th, 2022. We have 2022-220, the approval of refund for block party application, in the amount of $200. 2022-221, authorizing Coastal Rhythm Association conductor silent disco in October on the 5th Avenue Beach. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Sorry.
Mr. Bennell?
Yeah.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Individual resolutions, we have 2, authorizing preparation and submittal of a municipal open space grant program for fiscal year 2023. I'll make a motion to approve 2022. Sorry.
Mr. Bennell?
Yeah.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. 2022-214, sub 8, amendment to resolution authorizing the award of emergency procurement for Ocean Park Avenue stormwater outfall. Make a motion to approve 2022. Sorry.
Mr. Bennell?
Yes.
Mr. Gubatose?
Yes.
Mr. Sexsmith?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mayor Fox?
Yes. Okay, we will now move, there are no announcements, we'll move to Mayor Johnson report. Start with Councilman Bennell.
Okay, the first aid squad for the operation period from September 13th, 2022, the squad responds to 28 calls, 28 day calls and 23 night calls, for a total of 51. 29 were for medical, 16 were for fire calls. The squad provided medical coverage for the Bradley Beach 5K and the local summer event. We provided medical coverage over the 3-day Labor Day holiday with 2 members and a Kubota at the beach. We provided 2 backup crews while the Asbury Park Fire Department and Bradley Beach Fire Department operated at a partial building collapse. The squad had 4 members attend the American Red Cross training. 2 members amended the 56-hour. 2 members attended the 56-hour emergency medical response course and attained their 2-year certification. 2 members also recertified in the same class and received their 2-year certification. The squad provided mutual aid twice to Ocean Grove and once to Neptune City. The squad required no mutual aid for this period. They fulfilled 100% of their assignments for the operational period. The fire department, for the same operating period, responded to 16 requests for the department. The department required assistance from the Asbury Park Fire Department's Special Operations Unit at the partial building collapse. Our firefighters are working along with Asbury. After several hours, they had the building secured and made safe. Chief Hagerman would like to thank all involved in this operation, Bradley Beach Police, OEM, EMS, for bringing it to safe, injury-free conclusion, and for the valuable training experience the Asbury Park Fire Department provided to our membership. The department fulfilled 100% of their assignments this period. As usual, they're still looking for volunteers for fire and first aid. They offer free training, qualified individuals. Anyone wishing to volunteer for the fire department or first aid squad, applications can be found on the borough website. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. Councilman Lucas.
For starters, Mr. Councilman Weber, I don't know, you may also have a shade tree commission update. I'm going to say one quick thing because I substituted for you at their last meeting. And the Shade Tree Commission just wanted to make sure that their liaison followed up with the borough, just to make sure that we were developing an action plan for the tree inventory, the red flagged trees. Those are apparently ones that need to be fairly immediately removed. John, are you aware of that as well? Okay. So just want to make sure that's, acknowledged by the administration. Sylvan Lake, Off and on over the past couple of years, we've talked about opportunities that Sylvan Lake is pursuing to try to secure grant funding that they could work on a restoration of the lake. We just received notice a couple of days ago, I forwarded it to the mayor and our VA, that the engineering firm working on this with the Sylvan Lake Commission apparently has been awarded $140,000 to begin some preliminary phases of their design work. So if this is all true, if I understand the notification correctly, it's a great first step for what's probably $1 million plus project. But you know, you can't get to the project work and the actual restoration if they haven't designed. So the team seems to be very excited about that. I presume that Mr. Mayor, you and our VA will follow up with whatever issues the borough needs to address regarding that. That's a federal grant, by the way, REPI. And then finally, I don't know if anyone else in the audience has ever woken up in the middle of the night to screams of your house is on fire. But that actually happened to me a little over a week ago. My adult sons had some friends staying over, and one of his friends, who I knew from having met them over dinner, came pounding on my door just about midnight, my bedroom door, was in my gym shorts and t-shirt, and he said, "Your house is on fire." So the first thing you do is try to wake up and figure out like where you are and who is this stranger yelling at you thing, house is on fire. And then of course we immediately went outside. Fortunately, the house itself was not on fire, but a transformer and a telephone pole within 5 feet of the roof of my house was sparking. It had flames dropping to the ground. And the reason I tell this story is because our fire department was phenomenal. They were first on the scene. They were very thoroughly inspecting our entire house. Again, this is midnight, 1, 2 in the morning. Inspecting a house for hot wires and things that might have, been damaged by this sparking transformer. They teamed up with a few folks from Asbury department also showed. And then someone mentioned Chief Hagerman moments ago. The chief actually stayed with me just in my front walk for a couple of hours, waiting for PSE&G to come out so they could evaluate the damage on the pole. Turns out there was a connection in the transformer that had burned out and caused all this sparking. So it obviously could have been a lot worse. But I just wanted to give a personal thank you to our fire department and a comment to all of you. I hope you never lived through that. It's a scary experience, and it was great that we had such a responsive fire department. So thank you to the fire department. That's it.
Okay, Council President, second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the police report, since the last meeting, the police arrested a juvenile for stealing a bicycle. For the rec committee report, back to school bingo was a huge success. Over 35 kids plus parents attended the event. Not one child left empty-handed. Over 25 book bags fully stocked with school supplies were given away. Karate lessons, scones from Back in Time Cafe, thin smoothies, t-shirts from Murray's, and more were all donated by the local businesses generally. Senator Vin Gopal and his team were especially donating 10 book bags with all the supplies for those assigned to grades level, plus 10 more bags of paper towels, Lysol wipes, and tissues. The rec committee all volunteered the night of the event in Rockford. We also made a huge basket of supplies for the teachers and staff that were dropped off yesterday. Going forward, rec committee has begun aftercare registration. The program will begin October 3rd, 3 days a week from 3:10 p.m. to 6 p.m. for students pre-K to 4th, and hopefully we'll expand to 5 days a week after the new year. There's a free crosswords and coffee program that will be happening once a week on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. in the rec center. There'll be new puzzles every week. That starts September 20th. Coffee and tea are provided by the rec department. The Crafty Kids Club is a free program that's been going for a few months now on the 3rd Friday of every month for kids 5 and younger to meet, do a new craft and play with other kids while parents are able to socialize. It's reported to be a ton of fun and will be coming up this Friday at 10 a.m. in the rec center. The seniors are meeting Wednesday, September 21st at the Piazza Center at 12 p.m. for lunch. Great company and conversation. There's also going to be chair yoga this month at this month's meeting, and food will be provided by Rocco's Pizza. The upcoming month of October, Our rec coordinator is working on a costume dance party for grades 5 to 8. She's working on a 4 to 6 week fall pickleball beginners class that will hopefully be up and running soon. And also a trunk or treat event in conjunction with the Bradley Boom Parade and much more. Lastly, I was honored this past Sunday to represent the borough at the county 911 ceremony held at the Mount Mitchell Overlook Park in Atlantic Highlands. I was there amongst numerous state, county, and local elected officials honoring the 147 Monmouth County residents who lost their lives that day, as well as honoring the tireless efforts of the first responders who selflessly ran towards danger to save the lives of others. Some of you may not know this, but our borough administrator served at the time as New York Fire Department EMT. Ms. Humphrey spent countless hours over endless days tending to the injuries of the living and helping the families of the fallen grieve their losses. I'd like to offer a heartfelt thank you to our VA, Ms. Humphrey, as well as the members of our police department, fire department, EMS squad for the services they provided September 11th to the community.
Thank you. Council President. Councilman. Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Workshops were mentioned right at the beginning, and I will just say that I thought we could have had 3 workshops. We don't need to only have 2. We don't need to bump what's on the agenda just if we want to add another one. So hopefully we can do that, get through everything we have to get done in the future. As mentioned, we have a tree inventory now. I want to remind everybody that this cost us $12,000, but the Shade Tree Commission got a grant to cover every penny of it. In fact, we actually had to pay for it first and then pay the person back. So that's really good news. We have 1,086 public trees in town, either in the borough right of ways or in parks in town. But this program that was used by our tree expert, they also count tree vacancies. So we have 1,011 tree vacancies. So almost as many vacancies as actual trees. So we have a lot of tree planting that we could do. Astonishingly, there's only small number of trees that are so bad that they need to come down immediately. I reiterated that the trees that are in the right of way on the planting strip, those are the responsibility of the homeowner. And this tree inventory, these are like the red flag trees, about 18 of them. There's yellow ones, orange ones, there's yellow ones. So trees that should be addressed maybe in the next year, other trees that should be addressed in a few years. Oh, and that particular pin across the street from you, Mr. Mayor, that you was worried about, that one was designated as doesn't need to come down, just needs a crown cleaning, which is just again, it's quite a crown cleaning. Tree guy come in and they'll do crown cleaning, and that'll be that. So they also track the replacement value of the trees, and the replacement values of the trees that we have in town is over $2 million. So that's actually good news. So it's an asset, it's a resource. We need to take care of it. Another thing the tree inventory does, it notes sidewalk deflection. And if everybody remembers, between I guess a year and a half ago, we had a big effort to have people fix their sidewalks in town. I would say, I don't know how many people, but I feel like hundreds of people actually fix their sidewalks. If there's enough of the deflection in the sidewalk. But apparently not everybody did, because this tree report notes everywhere where there's a sidewalk deflection of at least 3/4 of an inch. And I don't know if that's the standard that it has to get fixed, something you know, or probably that way.
There is I don't want to say it.
If it is, there's a lot of it. I'm bringing it up just because I want to make sure that this part of the tree survey gets to our community development department, and then they'll have this list and they'll just know these are the places where the sidewalk is coming up at least 3/4 of an inch or more. And if owners are inclined to fix their sidewalks, I just encourage them to work with the tree expert, or have our code enforcement work with the tree expert, because as you know from previous discussions, he's explained there's ways people can fix their sidewalks without damaging the tree or the tree roots. And we don't want to replace the sidewalks and lose trees. So that's that. Energy aggregation, just as a reminder, we were going down this path of cooperating with 6 other towns to buy energy cooperatively. While we're cooperating with these 6 towns, each town gets their own bid in this energy market, and we've asked for a bid of getting 35% of our energy as renewable energy, but also at the same time cutting the rate that anybody that wants to participate, and that's just say the average residential owner, cutting the rate that they're paying by 5%. Now, the energy consultants that we're working with, they've explained that that's surprised. It's a very tough energy market out there, and actually weren't that hopeful that they would find bids that are going to meet those criteria. And if that's the case, we just say, okay, well, next time the auctions happen, we'll try again, or we can adjust. But that said, because some kind of energy prices are going through the roof, you gotta think about towns that did this and locked in their rate for a year or 2 years, you know, a few years ago. They're actually getting a really great deal right now because energy prices are rising. So more to come on that. Oh, the bid is actually on the auction's on November 15th. So we'll know after November 15th if we're going to enter into an aggregated energy situation. Let's see. Oh, well, yeah, Rick, last time I was up here, the summer camp was still going on, obviously it's over. So I haven't been up here since July. So I think it was great, at least from the standpoint of a parent. And some of the events already mentioned, back to school bingo was actually pretty cool and well attended. Some people were reminiscing about the bingo hall in town. And we were all just thankful that it wasn't as smoke filled. And I don't think any of the kids took up smoking, so that's pretty good. Local summer was also a really cool event. I couldn't stay at that, but I think it's a great idea. First year out. I mean, I think it's only going to get better. And I think it could even be, I think less would be more. That doesn't mean, you know, just let's make it so a place, a time for locals to gather and hang out on the beach on that weekend. I think that would be really great. I got a chance to go to school, first day of school, meet the new superintendent, Dr. Heidelberg. Seemed like a good guy, because I was pretty busy on first day of school. The Board of Education is obviously happy with their choice of superintendent, so we wish him well, and that's the extent of my report.
Thank you, Councilman. Actually, so for anything you want to cover, any other things?
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I did want to just let everyone, I received the monthly engineering report. I just wanted to go over it with everyone quickly. I think it'll be all by the next meeting. We're still preparing the RFP bids for the solid waste bid that we're putting out. It's the solid waste bid is quite intricate and difficult. We have to account for every household, the size of the trash cans. So there's a lot going into making sure that the specs are good, so that there aren't any challenges. We are just completing the utility pole inventory. What we did was we are doing an inventory on every utility pole where wires hanging. I will then be taking that report and going to the utility companies. I was trying to do it pole by pole as I was seeing things, but that was just not. That was a waste of time, really. It wasn't work. It was working harder, not smarter. So once I get that inventory, I can meet with the utility companies to see if we can get some cleanup done. We did do a Beach Avenue drainage study because we were receiving some complaints about Beach Avenue in some of the intersections, Evergreen Avenue, 4th Avenue, and we're reviewing the existing drainage system to see what we need to do. There will be some issues that we will address as part of the phase 2 sewer project paving. Let's see what else. Improvements to Park Place Avenue, that's ready to move forward now. Sanitary sewer improvements are still in the process. It's a very large project. Thank you all for putting up with a lot. I know it's busy for the summer. It's going to continue to be busy. I am meeting with the contractors to try to make sure that the cleanup goes as well as it possibly can. If there's any issues, just please email me. I don't check I sometimes get words and things are posted on Facebook. I really don't check Facebook. So if you would email me, I usually get right on any complaints with any projects or anything else for that matter. I'm excited that we're going to do this open space application to apply with the county. It's really, you've done a great job. I want to say the programs that we're offering right now, I really appreciate you moving forward with everything that I'm pushing you to do, because I know it's a big task. I do believe that, we want a quality environment for our residents. We want a quality environment for adults, our children, our seniors, and we're moving in that direction. So thank you for letting me do that as well. I know that was a interesting task to take up with so many other things going on. We're still doing zoning ordinance reviews, and we will be applying for, different grants as they come up. I did want to take a moment and address the fact that it was 9/11. I want to thank Council President Sexsmith for going and sitting with me and my family during the ceremony. It's always an interesting time to reflect. We all know that 2,977 people were killed on a day that they thought they were just going to be going to work. You have your first responders, your survivors that are suffering still to this day from medical conditions and PTSD. I think it's a day that changed not only our lives, our country, but our world. And Bradley Beach, like I always say, is a beautiful place, and you have a quality living environment. And a day like on 9/11, we should just reflect not on who we lost, but be thankful for what we have today. You have a really wonderful town. We should be really proud and thankful. That's me personally saying that. Hispanic Heritage Month, Latin Fest will be 2 p.m. in Riley Park on Sunday. I'm quite excited. There will be different dance lessons, DJs. We'll be playing music, and there'll be live music as well. We celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month to recognize the achievements and the contributions of the Hispanic American champions who have inspired others to achieve success. So I just wanted to take a moment and make sure everyone knows that we're having a wonderful event, and I hope to see you there. Trees, I did want to address trees. Community development is on the fact that we will be doing the notices as we discussed over the weekend in emails, letting people know that they do have trees that need to be addressed. I believe that's it for the moment.
Thank you.
Kim, if we have an issue with one of the streetlights, do we just go directly to JCP&L about it?
No, you can email. Yeah, so you can email the police department.
Okay.
They do an inventory and a report.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I want to thank Council President Sexton for covering for me this past Sunday. I was actually flying on 9/11, which is in of itself, but certainly appreciate the participation we had at that event. I went last year, and it was a great event. I usually comment each meeting on key events or occurrences and general performance, whether it's the beachfront, public works, or public safety. That won't be the case tonight, with the exception of one update. I do want to just touch on our beach revenue. Late today, we've got numbers that I think are 100% correct. Our beach revenue was up about 6% over last year. We came in just a few $1,000s less than $2 million. We came in actually 1997, although we're still making sure that number is absolutely correct, because there's 5 different sources of where the numbers come from. 6%, sounds, the question you might have is 6%, not too great, but pre-COVID, we averaged about $1.5 million for a 3-year period. So we're up about 30% pre-COVID. COVID, we had a big boom, and then we've been able to maintain not the COVID level, but we're certainly in a great position. So we'll have we're a couple $100,000 over what we estimate for beach revenue. So that's certainly encouraging. So I wanted to let people know, because that's there is an exasperating number that's a problem for our community, and that number is 10. So why do I say that is a tough number for us? Over the last few years, we've gone through 3 CFOs, 3 business administrators, 2 borough attorneys, and 2 clerks, which adds up to 10 people. That's not normal. I need to comment on the interaction and I think a lack of respect that we as a council have with some of our contracted professionals and our municipal employees. I question sometimes people's motives, behaviors, and actions that would cause this situation. It just seems like it's a drill that just keeps happening over and over, and it just has to. We really have to reflect on that. I've tried to navigate through this situation to the best of my abilities, hoping not to affect service to our residents and progress of the administration, which is comprised again of municipal employees and professional staff. Although not ideal, this tenor has been a reality. The reason I bring this up today is that the situation, I think, has kind of gotten worse versus better. We've had situations of misinformation, gaslighting, and an effort in social media on quote topics. Unfortunately, these have drifted into innuendo, lies, and half truths relative to some of our employees and professionals. It's just not acceptable. Some of the challenges and unprofessional behavior that has occurred since last year's affected our employees and our professionals. Some of you may know that we settled a lawsuit a few years ago for a similar reason. I abstained from that vote. It was one of my first votes on the council. I just don't ever want to repeat that ever as a community. The most frustrating thing that bothers me about this is people's careers and professional reputations that are at stake. But they seem to be at play. And I use the word play because sometimes I just don't think there's any self-awareness around the fact that these are people's careers and professional reputations. This has to change. It just has to change. We need, as a council, to put this stuff aside and move forward with the problem and make progress. And I hope people can see that. I certainly want a better Bradley Beach, and I'm hopeful of that. We have so much upside potential, if you can believe it, because I think, people think right now that we're in just great shape. And I do believe that, but I think we can do better. I hope we have the ability to conform to those roles and responsibilities, and we will see how that goes. And that is my report. Next agenda item is public comments. Yes.
Nancy Meadow, Ocean Park condos. Yeah, this is about people's lives and reputations and civility and respect. And I know at the last meeting, I pointed out that the Zoom people do not see anything other than the council. And it would be helpful if they knew what other borough employees and or representatives were here. Apparently, they don't deserve that respect because there has been no change. I would like to thank the gentleman from CME who introduced himself. Unless you're able to see over a chair, we have no knowledge that there is somebody for a borough attorney here. I don't know if it's arrogance, incompetence, but it certainly is disrespectful. In addition, who is Paul that was up there speaking? I don't know. Moving along, I used to speak with the previous mayor Wednesday evening meetings. They were private. I would give him suggestions. He would take notes and no action. I assume the action was probably file 13. However, he did take one action, and I see it's still in practice here. So I feel that in a tiny, minuscule way, I made a contribution. So I thought, well, there's a connect and clinch with the mayor last week. I'm not familiar with this. I will go and try to connect. I was there. A couple was there. A male person was there. And yes, I'm using old-fashioned gender identity. A videographer was there, and somebody waiting for a meeting was there. I brought up the point that it was a connect with the mayor, not with the BA or law enforcement. I was told that that information was on the website. I don't like to argue in public unless I double check myself. It was not on the website that I looked at. And it was interesting to me that I spoke for 5 minutes. The borough employees spoke for much more than that in a quite offensive way to me. and then spent 5 minutes discussing their baseball preferences before the other gentleman spoke for 25 minutes. So things like, gee, can we get our pool back? Couldn't come out of my mouth because it just I didn't connect, I guess would be the point. Oh, and there also was a borough employee who had to stay there for the quench part. So we paid someone for this. Mind-boggling. I also, if you want something new, you can kind of let it just disintegrate. So then there's a real reason to get something new. So if I remember correctly, we approved last meeting about $8,000 for a new website. But now I've watched for a year the old new website not having new information put on it. Because we're, I guess, waiting to begin another one. I don't know. But this is what I do know. Everyone said last week the 5K, last meeting, the 5K was great. I clicked on 5K. It told me the date it was. It told me it ran all day. I knew nothing else about it, couldn't participate because I didn't know who, what, where, when, how. Well, I knew the when. Then after last meeting, I wanted to connect with some of the seniors that had spoken up because I had some information I wanted to share. So I thought, well, I'm a senior. I'll go to a senior meeting. Gee, I wonder where they're held. And this is before the whole incident. I didn't know anything about it. So I went to the website and clicked on senior activities. I got nothing. So my point here is all of you in front of me who are grimacing, slouching, tuning me out, and whatever, your job is to service we, the people. If you don't choose to do that from the smallest scale, how do you even think you're competent enough or caring enough or compassionate enough to look at the big scale? And that's coming from somebody who only sees trees and doesn't see a forest. So I would like for you to all look at all the stuff that you let slide by because you think that's not important. Oh, she's the town nuisance. Well, I'm going to tell you, you are affecting our quality of life. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Lee Leahy. Sorry about my voice. I think I have allergies. Yeah, and I live on Park Place. And I am vice president of the Bradley Beach Senior Club. I had to write this down because I go off on tangents. I'd like to tell you that I have been told that on our social media, issues about our Bradley Beach Senior Club are not always clear or true. As vice president, due to our president's family illnesses, I'm in charge. I call via phone because I'm not savvy to computers or whatever. So I go on the phone, I call all the members on my list. I have a friend who posts on the town blog, and she says we're going to have a meeting. She posted from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday until the meeting on Wednesday. Let me see. And she gives the date, the time, and the place of the senior meetings. I order food and set up for meetings at the firehouse. We have a locker in the Velazzi building, so we can have our paper goods and our bingo. Okay, there was a miscommunication on our August meeting. We were in de Blasi's when she was texted 1 hour before the meeting. Angry words were spoken over the conference of the last, and of the confusion of the last minute change. Anyhow, we were offered the old room at de Blasi where we always had it. And we did have our meeting there. We were never told to leave the building. Hence, the following week, I had a good and productive meeting with the administration and with the mayor. We were offered both the Blasi and the firehouse to meet, and will vote by the members at our next meeting in September. All will work out for all parties with good communication. That's it.
Gene, just two questions. One, so I just want to clarify that meeting, you really had more of a meeting, I think. I mean, I stopped by to see you, but did you, I think you two, you and Kim.
Yeah, we had a meeting
We
together.
had a
Yeah,
meeting.
okay, I just didn't hear. I
Oh,
just didn't hear that.
we had a meeting, you and I had a meeting,
You know, the meeting is 21st or the 28th, it's on my calendar, it's the
the
28th.
28th,
It's the 28th.
and I think I may have to change it, but to the firehouse, but we'll see. I have to get it all together, but I will get back.
No, you're doing fine. Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Peter Sharp, 301 Second Avenue. I have some questions on energy aggregation. John, would it be appropriate to address these to you?
Sure.
Okay, you've been very kind in the past with supplying me with some reading materials on this topic generically. Thank you for that again. It sounds like though things are starting to get real and specific. And you mentioned a moment ago, I think, a fixed ratio between renewables versus fossil fuels, 35% renewables. But when we spoke in the past, you said that each individual homeowner would be able to select the mix, the ratio that he desired. Is that still true?
So, to a certain extent, I should have mentioned what the energy consultants advised. From the beginning, we've always wanted it, so if people want to pay more, they want to get like 100% renewable energy as what they're purchasing, they can do that. Naturally, they're going to pay more, but that was always one of the things, and I forgot to mention that. So that is still an option. But I asked the energy consultant, well, can we have like a 50% and and all these different, and they said, no, don't do that. Just go for the 100%, and they can probably explain better. I couldn't exactly explain why. I'd be happy to put you in touch with Lisa Head to explain why. So there's an option for 100% renewable energy if people want to do it. And I also did mention, this is, people can opt out of this, they can just opt out forever, they can opt out of this auction, they can come back in, they can do, they're gonna get communicated to if they find, if they find a supplier at the terms that we're talking about, then you're gonna get communicated to opt in or opt out and all this other stuff.
So there's not Baskin and Robbins 32 flavors, there's 2 flavors.
There's kind of not, yeah, there's 2 flavors, yeah.
Okay. The flavor, yes, the vanilla flavor at 35%. Were other flavors possible that would be cheaper? I think you mentioned there was a 5% savings that was going to come to homeowners. Did we have it within our power to pick a different mix?
Okay, so no, so what we want, like, right now, everybody, you don't have to do anything. Your energy mix is 24.5% renewable energy. That's like a state mandate. All the utilities are meeting that. So
Right now today.
So this is just like, okay, let's see if we can get a little bit more renewable energy in the mix. Like the idea from the beginning. Let's see if we can do more green energy, but we don't want to do it at anybody's expense. So we're only going to do that. It's going to save people at least 5%. If it saves them 1%, we're like, well, maybe it's not worth it. Let's save at least 5%. So that's where we're going. And again, that option, if people want to do more, they got money and they want to go 100% renewable energy, they can do that.
Was there an option to save people 10%?
Well, we could tell the, we could say, yeah, that's our requirement. And the likelihood of us actually finding suppliers at that rate would be even less. You know what I'm saying? Because the energy, the market's really tight. And again, we're sort of getting advice because these energy consultants, they've done this over and over again. They kind of know what works, know what's going to happen. And again, there's other towns that they might be doing something different. There's a couple towns in the mix, Asbury and Red Bank. They are by ordinance ratcheting up the amount of renewable energy year by year by year by year. And I think we said, well, let's just see if we can get this, a little bit more renewable energy year one and not find ourselves.
I have no doubt this will all work great under a sunny day scenario, pun intended. But you know, suppose we go through an extended period where the wind doesn't blow and the sun doesn't shine. We put our citizens at any risk for having outages with a 35% mix. And conversely, if all of a sudden the spigot turns on again for fossil fuels, they become a lot cheaper. But we've locked in at a certain rate for the 35% renewables. Do we encounter a financial risk or we are now paying above market prices because of that decision, because of that mix? I'm just looking for ways that this can break down because I think we need to protect ourselves. And I'm not sure what's happening to do that.
And the answer is probably not, because these are relatively short term. Contracts.
How long is
Like a year, and again, I mean, maybe 18 months would be really long, but again, consultants explained to me the way the markets are, no one's gonna give you 18 months at any price, so it's probably gonna be a year, maybe even less than that. So I think not, you know, as far as the wind not blowing and the sun not shining, like, I don't know that there would be, well, first of all, well, the renewable energy can be coming from literally anywhere, and that's actually one of the stipulations we said. We could have asked for like renewable energy from right here in New Jersey, and it gets a lot more expensive. There was a quote, hey, windmills in Iowa are good, so it's essentially you're buying power from places that could be generating it. So, I mean, unless the entire country goes dark.
Well, yeah.
I don't.
I know my time is up. One more quick question though, please. Now that we're getting very real and very specific about this, is there a place, documents online somewhere where an interested party could read about all this and learn more?
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes to, and I will ask and find out, because that's, you certainly deserve that. There's other like groups of towns in New Jersey that have aggregated, and maybe they have, I mean, this is, they've done it for a few years, so maybe there's documents written about them or whatever, but.
We, Bradley Beach, have something. We're about ready to commit. to
Yeah,
this,
no, I
right?
hear you.
So,
And
something.
everything that I'm getting is, you know, it's energy consultant to us, to share with the council or the administrator. I will ask if all this stuff can be public, and that'd be great. I'd be happy to.
Would be.
Okay. Yeah.
All right,
think so? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. That's
Question. Yes.
Rick Bartolome, 116 Newark. Two quick questions. One, I'm not familiar with silent disco. What is that? That's the silent disco? That just, you
It's
just
a
went,
group that puts headphones on and they just dance silently on the beach.
okay. Second item is,
And it's disco music, they have headphones on, it's
I
not
just didn't know what that
it's just dancing on the beach.
this is probably addressed to the borough administrator. Where do we stand on the RFP, I believe, for the sewer study?
The resolution did not pass.
Right. So where do we go from here?
I wasn't given any further direction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are you raising your hand or doing silent?
You didn't know what it was. You're very excited about it. Lori, help us all.
Dr. Tom McGuire, 610 Brindley Avenue. So Jean, right? Jean did a awesome job. So she said something on Facebook was not true. There was something going on. Mayor, you just talked about respect and talked about misinformation being put out on Facebook. Would you care to elaborate on what that is?
No, I wouldn't really, because my comments were general comments. I don't want to get into specifics because.
One, can we get one?
The reason I don't want to get into specifics is there are personnel issues and legalities that I shouldn't. Is that correct?
So how about that has nothing to do with our, what's called, does it everything have to do with our employees? That's misinformation right now?
I can't comment because I don't really look at Facebook that much. It's what I've been given.
But you just made a statement to everyone here that there's misinformation. You can't hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so you made a comment to everyone here that there's misinformation going on out there.
Correct.
And can you give us at least one example of that?
I've been forwarded has to do with
I think I can respond.
No, I'd really love to hear from him because he's saying this and because I mean, I know Councilman Vanel's been posting a lot of things of information on there about what's going on in this town. And I'd really like to, is what he's putting on there misinformation?
What I'm telling you is that when it relates to a personnel issue, I can't comment on personnel.
Okay. So it only has to do with personnel. Now, no,
Related, yes. So
Okay.
can you have a comment?
Well, I think maybe I can say what the actual occurrence was for one of the issues
Sure.
that Ms. Leahy brought up.
no, I shared about that one. I want to know, because there's got to be something else that's going on. I know.
Oh,
it's
the-
Okay, so I mean, when you make a statement like that, is it really deceitful information that is completely wrong information? That's a yes or no, so you can say that, correct, counsel? You can answer that if this is completely wrong information.
I'm
No,
not-
I
I really don't, I'm really not,
the,
I'm gonna sit here and go through an inquisition on this, I'm sorry.
Well, when can we get the information that you have deemed information misinformation?
I have been given information, reviewed with counsel, we reviewed it from a personnel perspective,
Mhm.
and that's what we can do.
But we're definitely classifying it as misinformation, not malinformation.
there was no information that was.
So no
specified that was
information.
Classified here.
We don't
He was
classify.
speaking in general terms, and so, that's as far as I'm going to go on information from my point of view. That's
So you-
general.
Okay, because you've spoken a lot in generals before, Mayor, and I just would love, like Gene brought up exactly what happened and said, this is how it's clarified. Why can't we do that with other things, even though there's got to be other things that aren't regarding Gene's.
Gene's a private citizen, you can do that.
And what you're saying about people posting on Facebook, which you're not really on, that they're posting misinformation. And it has to do with our borough council, I mean, the employees, that's what it has to do with. And we can't, this is like someone's gonna get sued for this? Yes, no, can't answer that?
I'm not gonna respond to that.
All right, so this is where we're going, so. Okay, do we know what the definition of misinformation is?
Okay. Do you have anything else you want to cover? Because you.
No, I don't. I really want to get to this because every time this is brought up about us or about things being posted on there and you're saying these things, you're saying people are posting things on Facebook. Is Mr. Shook here too on the council?
No.
No? Okay, just wanted to make sure. I guess, but do we know the definition of malinformation? Because that's a new word that they just coined. Malinformation.
I didn't use that.
I'm going to use the term. Malinformation means that information that is correct, but you don't like it. And it's used against you. Could things be used maybe in malinformation that you just don't like it?
I really don't look at it, so.
Well, can I encourage you to go on Facebook maybe and look at it?
I can't, because
Please.
that's not my job to go on.
There's a lot of good, it's like our town,
We certainly.
Yeah, that's what everyone in the town's there.
I choose not to, I'm an elected official.
but you do choose. You just posted about Mr. Sexsmith. And then you want, that was the only thing you posted about. So you do go on there. So you choose things. You choose to say, look out for Tim, vote for Tim.
Didn't say you want.
You didn't, did you post anything else about any other council members? Or just Tim?
I made a comment about Tim, but not the ones you mentioned.
And that was it, right?
That's fine, thank you.
No, thank you. You're doing a great job.
Anybody else? Yes.
Jim Burns, 401 Fifth Bradley, 219 Dogwood Bayville. First of all, I want to thank Kim personally for your service with 9/11. Okay, you know, everything on Facebook is true, everything I read, so. But, you know, I'm on council in another town, and we're dealing with the Airbnbs and hotels. And what I've been looking at is Vermont and Florida, other states, to actually tax Airbnbs. And we're working on an ordinance to do that same, because it does tax your police, fire, garbage. And also it helps you to know where the Airbnbs are. The first thing our code guy does, he goes on the internet, he looks where he can get an Airbnb at Bradley Beach. You go there, make sure they have all the proper documentation, make sure the police haven't been there on previous calls or whatever. The drug epidemic is insane. And the other is the hotels. You really need to be looking at that. Ocean County has got a shortage in motels and hotels. If you know the Seaside Heights, they just pulled mercantile licenses from hotels there that they're putting condos. There's no place to put the homeless, which I'm very compassionate to the homeless, but like everybody in this room, not in my backyard. All right, so I think you really need to, look at that and get on these ordinances right away. And if you'd like, I would forward Kim a copy. Okay, and also, in politics, this is the silly season, and it's very obvious here tonight. So take care. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
I'm sorry about my. Linda Duffy, 312 Brindley. I have very simple things.
Sorry, one more time, name and.
Linda Duffy, 312 Brindley. Okay. As far as the beach lockers go, could it ever be entertained that instead of putting them in a long row as you face the beach, divide it in half, so you don't have to walk so far to get your stuff out of the locker on each street? I know 1 or 2 streets you can't because there's a storage shed, but other towns do it. Yes, it's an inconvenience for older people to walk in the sand. So when you're walking so far down to get to the end locker, you put half facing the ocean and half facing you as you walk onto the beach. And I also check in the morning when I walk or ride my bike, they can ride their, whatever their beach vehicle is called, up and down. It wouldn't interfere with that, because I don't see their tracks that close to either side. And the other thing is, I'm concerned about the yellow marking lines on the curbs that run north and south. So you're approaching a street to make a right or a left, whichever direction you're going in, north or south. Because the vehicles today are a little bit higher, because most people have SUV, you can't see around the corners because the yellow lines don't go back far enough. So by the time you get out there, they're speeding down, you see a lot of near misses all the time. And I would like to see our calendar go back to the old format with whatever is on that day is in the box of the day, not written down the side, and more things put on there. Like street sweeping, which is another on my wish list. Why do we even have it? Because nobody parks on the right side of the street, and the street sweeper cleans the center of the street. So what is the purpose of street sweeping? It doesn't do anything. It never hit my house once all summer because somebody parked in front of my house on that day, or everybody else's house. I even went down other blocks to see, and we're really wasting our money.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
You know, and if we do street sweeping, then those people have to park on the opposite side of the street. I'm not trying to give everybody a heartache. And I would like to see like the planning board's minutes posted online so we could read them. There's no minutes online. I can't find them.
Look under land use.
Email me and I'll email you back the link, find it. So you can-
I'd appreciate this way we could all know what he's talking about, and I'd like to know those 9 other recommendations. I have no idea. And I don't want to see a hotel on Main Street. Who is going to rent a hotel next to a railroad track? Boutique hotel with noise? I don't think that's appropriate, and I want to thank everybody for a wonderful summer. We had a great summer, a lot of activities, and John, I wish you would talk about lantern flies. Because they're destroying a lot of trees in town, and maybe something we put up, people need to kill them.
I'll talk about it right now, if you like.
I'd appreciate it.
Bottom lantern flies and invasive species.
Thank you.
Bad news. What people can do themselves is they live in a tree that is also an invasive species called the tree of heaven. It's from China. There's a huge one, like across from the firehouse, like kind of on the corner of Auto Tech. It's not on town property, that's public property, it's private property. but that's a tree of heaven, that's a huge one. Tree of heaven grows where like nobody's paying attention, like you put a chain link fence in the back of your thing and you leave it, and then 10 years later, you got tree of heaven. And now we have spider enterprise, and that's like their favorite place to live, so. If you think you have a tree of heaven, call me or anybody on the Shade Tree Commission, we'll let you know, and you can call a tree person and get it taken care of, but that's one way to start. Good, thank you.
Someone else? Yes.
It's also known as tree of hell.
Herb Kenny, 216 Brindley. So my first time coming to one of these meetings. I just want to preface a couple comments here before I start. My comments here are not directed at any existing land development ordinances. It's more to challenge why these are not long-term ordinances are not being, given to people when they're applying, and it's very inconsistent to everyone of what the ordinances are, and some people get them, some don't. I'm going to read a little bit here because I have some quotes and I want to make sure they're correct. But the reason for me being here today, it's been percolating for 3 years. It started again this July. And last week, when Mr. Gavin spoke so passionately about his home, it really struck a chord. Mr. Gavin's comments last week were that he openly stated his home on 414 4th Avenue, which I didn't know was his home until he spoke last week, was built to code with no variances. And this is all pretty interesting to me. 3 years ago, my wife and I contracted John Naples, who I'm sure everyone in this town knows, probably one of the best builders I've ever used in my lifetime. Worked with his architect as well to add a 3rd floor to my home. And our only goal and the only objective is we wanted no variances. I live in Florida in the winter. We had a 6-month window. I just wanted my home designed to code and built. We put the plans together, we mailed them in. I left for Florida. A week later, George Waterman, who was the ex-zoning board zoning officer in the town, rejected us. And I was very shocked. John was shocked. The architect was shocked. We did a lot of research. I spoke with George Waterman several times. I spoke to a council member who gave me the advice to talk to him. And he finally gave me the reason. He printed the reason why we were rejected. And this is what I want to read. Because per the applicant, there is a proposal to raise the existing roof and refinish the 3rd floor with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. The applicant does not comply with the land development ordinance. Zoning Board of Adjustment approval is required. It says per land development ordinance section 450-4, a dormer is defined as, and here it is, dormer, capital letters, a gable projecting from a sloping roof that does not exceed 10 feet in width and contains 1 or more windows set vertically a minimum of 2 feet from above the exterior surface wall to the story below. This was added on 12/29/2006 by ordinance number 2006-22. Therefore, my wife and I would like an answer of why we had to redesign our architectural plans to conform to this Bradley Beach ordinance. Ultimately, we now have to live with a final layout that was not envisioned and is much more expensive than when we first started out to do this objective. It's extremely frustrating that others in town somehow figure out ways to work around these longstanding ordinances, while others must abide by the rules. After listening to Mr. Gavin last week, we became very interested, because when someone is that passionate, I wanted to go see what this is all about. So I was able to actually get a copy of the plans of Mr. Gavin's residence. It's interesting because on the west side of his home, he has 2 compliant 9-foot dormers. In the middle, there's a very non-compliant 16-foot dormer, which is pretty ironic because my house is rejected because I wanted to build a dormer and all the rooms on one side very similar to what was going to be done on Mr. Gavin's home. It's also interesting on the plans, there is also 2 compliant 10-foot dormers on the east side of the building, which is now been replaced somehow with a single, much larger, non-compliant single dormer as well. clearly the land use board, should review these as-built plans and see what's happened here. I've listened to some people tonight talk about approvals and blah, blah, blah. Unless you're in the middle of this, getting charged a lot more money than you need to, it doesn't really hit close to home. The board also has to determine how is a when I say board, I'm talking about the land use board, not this board. Needs to look into, understand why was a non-compliant 16-foot dormer not flagged in the plans for Mr. Gavin. I would like some type of reply back. I think it's only fitting since we had to go through that. And Mayor Fox, you made a comment about your 10. I'm sorry, this is you won't mind this one. I'm not pitching here. This is a positive. I want to compliment Erica. You've been speaking with my wife. You probably don't know my wife, Barbara, but we looked into this. I'm one of these people that likes to have a lot of data before I go anywhere. It's just my analytical background in science. But we checked with the town, we checked with zoning, checked with the director of community development in the town of what their knowledge was of the 10-foot dormer rule, and they didn't know. But thanks to Erica worked very closely with the engineering department, with the town, looked up and made sure that this ordinance has not been rescinded, because I never wanted to come here without if this was rescinded. But I really hope that the whatever you call yourself, I know it's not zoning and land use board, whatever, really takes a look at this, because it's really frustrating to people that just want to live by the law and end up getting penalized by thousands and thousands of dollars unnecessarily. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else? Yes.
Thomas J. Cohen, 612 Third Avenue. Mayor, I have a question to start off. I come up here sometime and ask questions, and you say it's comments only, but other people have been asking questions tonight. I mean, do I get discriminated against? Is it comments or is it questions? It's one or the other. You can't just say it's comments one night and it's comments and questions another night. What is it?
We'll make the comments going forward.
For me, right? Okay, well, I'm prepared with the comment tonight. At the meeting, the last meeting at August 23rd, 2022, there was a gentleman who owns a property at 414 4th Avenue who sniveled about his plans being requested by someone under Oprah. And I don't believe he really understands what Oprah is, but he was nice enough to use words about, possibly being worried about social deviants, gadflies, sexual predators, and miscreants. Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm the one who did the Oprah, and I will own gadfly every day of the week, because that's a good thing. Because Oprahs are meant for people, the public, especially under administration like yours, Mayor, where you hold back a lot of documents, you hold back a lot of answers. We have to go get them ourselves. And this gentleman doesn't understand.
Could you repeat what you said? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said your administration holds back a lot of documents and a lot of answers, and we have to go find them ourselves.
That's just not true.
That is true, sir. That absolutely is true.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I feel that way, but I get criticized.
You don't hold back documents. Why don't you continue?
Oh, no. I have the Oprahs to prove you've held back and redacted documents improperly. So we'll get into that later. We're taking care of that in Superior Court, sir. But anyway, this person, was living in Shrewsbury in 2019 when there was a case at 306 Monmouth Avenue that was uncovered due to Oprahs, where a councilman was building a large garage apartment that was not what the plan that he submitted was. And that was discovered by Oprahs. The Lobster Fest ABC permits for alcohol were improper, and that was discovered through Oprah request by members of the public. The improper commission of the Lobster Fest to the Chamber of Commerce and their negligent tax submissions was uncovered by Oprahs. Oprahs are done so the public can work with you and really help you. But it's meant to be an open and honest fashion for us to do business. And this person was very upset about it and everything. But you know what? Thou dost protest too much. And the plans do reflect exactly what was talked about by Mr. Kenny. I'd love to know the calculation for the third floor. I believe there should be an investigation by the zoning officer, and it's, you've done a couple investigations here, Mayor, I guess one more would be good, to see how this happens. It's very frustrating, because as he said, people follow the rules, and then other people don't. It's not a level playing field here in the borough of Bradley Beach under your administration. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes.
For anybody who doesn't figure it out by now, I'm Tom Gavin, 414 Fourth Avenue. Mr. Kenny, I apologize. I submitted plans through my architect through the town. And, oh, sorry.
You're not supposed to.
I apologize. Mr. Kenny, I apologize. I submitted my documents through the town.
You talk to Mr. Kenny offline.
Oh.
You start addressing us.
In that case, I comment to the council that I submitted my plans through the appropriate forms, through the architects, through the builders, through the town, through their reviews. And to my best knowledge, to my architect's best knowledge, everything was completely coded correctly. I'm glad certain members of our community own the word gadfly. I hope they continue to do so. I do want to bring up a thank you and a big thank you. And Mr. Cannon's not here, so I'll thank you instead. I'll thank Erica for the resolution to my question residence issues, that they've been resolved, that I am a resident of Bradley Beach, that I did vote here. I do own a home. And I thank you to all of the people who are involved in that. And to those who questioned it, I thank you, because that settled something that was very important. Earlier, the mayor questioned, or the mayor stated there was some misinformation online. I take it that that misinformation was made in the best of intent. I'm not sure it was, but I'll take it that it was. And that now that it's resolved, it will stop. I can't promise that, but I can.
Yeah.
Yes, William Shook, 110 Fifth Avenue, Bradley Beach. With Mr. Cohn's statements as far as Oprahing being a good thing, I'm going to disagree with him completely, 100%, because he is the one that's Oprahing and costing the towns thousands and thousands of dollars. There is no information that's withheld from the town. There's nothing. Everything is posted. So I don't know where he comes up with his thing. And Councilman Bonnell, I wish you would stop playing Monday morning quarterback on the Facebook. I mean, you yourself posted when they arrived at the senior center, they were met by municipal employees who said they could not use the building. The police were called to remove them from the building. Where'd you get that information from? Jane just mentioned that they used the building. Now you're stating on Facebook that the police came and evicted them. Come on. Stop playing more Monday morning. Were you there? Did you see it? Did you see the police there?
People came to me with.
No, you're saying a second thing, okay? An after effect. Okay, you're just repeating somebody else's lies. Stop, because that's all you're doing on Facebook is lying constantly. Your lies, half truths, and innuendos. That's all you're doing. You come up and you say, well, so and so said. Well, do you have any proof? Here, perfect example. Okay, what you posted about Tom Gavin, that he can't run for council. He's been voting in town. Do you have any proof of that? No, but you have proof that he doesn't live in town. Okay. You know, the man has a house. He's been here. I mean, if the elections bureau said that he can't vote, he can't run, then he can't run, but yet they put him on the ballot. So guess what? You're wrong. You're spreading false information. Please stop. As a councilman, please stop. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, I will make a motion for adjournment.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Yeah.